The special master related to the FBI's search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home held his first hearing this afternoon. Judge Raymond Dearie pressed Trump's lawyers if they had any proof that the former president had indeed declassified records taken from his Florida estate, as the former president had claimed. Let's get right to the news with our CBS News colleagues. We have with me here on set Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa, and we also have Congressional Correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Thank you both for being here. It's so fun to see you in person, kind of. Scott, I do want to start with you about this special master. This is someone we've been hearing about a lot, but this is the first time we've actually heard from him at this press conference. Tell us a little bit about what the big takeaways were.
Yeah, this was a hearing, or what the court calls a conference, at the courthouse in Brooklyn, New York. It happened quickly. It was a 45-minute conference or hearing, and the judge, the special master, Raymond Dearie, got to the heart of the matter pretty quickly, pushing back on this argument, this key argument from the Trump team, that the former president declassified some of those seized records and that they were rightfully in his possession because he declassified them. Special master almost immediately asked them to show their cards, provide some details or indication of what was declassified and how the declassification happened. And the Trump legal team, in a court filing last night and again today during this court conference, declined to do so, saying to show their hand on this would compromise their defense if there's a criminal indictment in this case. So this is very much like a poker game, Caitlin, where one player wants to see another's cards and the other player is refusing to show the cards. The special master, Judge Dearie, says he's going to move as quickly as he can. There's a November 30th deadline from the judge who assigned the special master. We'll see if he takes all the time up to November 30th.
I mean, Bob, given everything that Scott just described, this is a special master that Trump called for. So what's going on here? What does he want to get out of this? And what is he getting out of this politically?
This is an effort by the Trump legal team to try to delay an ongoing investigation. They believe that this judge is someone they want to review the evidence to make sure that there are not elements of attorney-client privilege in the stash that was collected by the FBI during its search in August. And this is something that has frustrated the government because they have an ongoing investigation. There's an ongoing Office of the Director of National Intelligence assessment of what was taken.
Politically speaking, are Republicans still coming to his defense, or is everything that we've seen come out of this investigation so far, and there's a lot we have left to learn, are you sensing any kind of let's wait and see approach?
On the records case, there's apprehension among some of my Trump sources that this is a curveball for them politically and legally. They weren't expecting this to be a major thing they were dealing with in August and September of this year. That being said, most Republicans on Capitol Hill are laser focused on the midterms, and they do think about the Trump factor, but it's not necessarily just with the records case. I was up on Capitol Hill this morning, having breakfast with some key sources. And I said, how do you see the Trump legal front? And their answer, in short, was that Trump's facing all of this scrutiny, whether it's in Georgia, in Manhattan, in New York State, from the grand juries in Washington, from Capitol Hill, from the Congressional Select Committee. And at the end of the day, if something breaks before the election, especially, let's say, in late October, it's going to be a major factor. But no one can predict whether it's the records case or something else that's going to be a political factor in these midterms, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all of the scrutiny that the former president is under. Scott, I want to ask you, because you've been following all of these cases, and, you know, it's pretty hard to keep track of how many investigations there are. Can you kind of remind us how many investigations are out there in the former president? Are any of them related, and anything that we should be looking for this week?
Well, they ultimately could be related, Caitlin. That may not be determined just yet. That's the thing about this Mar-a-Lago records investigation. It's not that it's the investigation of the former president. It's one singular investigation of the former president. There are several more. Of course, there's the investigation going on in Georgia, perhaps the fastest moving one so far, into efforts to overturn the Georgia election results in 2020. There are multiple investigations in New York City into the Trump Organization, into businesses, possibly into Trump taxes. There's also an investigation in Congress into Trump's taxes at the House Oversight Committee. And oh, by the way, there's a grand jury here in Washington investigating January 6th and the fake elector scheme that's been alleged. We don't know where that's headed, but we do know they've subpoenaed dozens of associates of the former president, an indication it's an investigation in its infancy, in its early stages, that could be going far and wide. There are multiple levels in which there are investigations of the former president. Mar-a-Lago is just one of them.
Just one of them. The other big one that we're watching has obviously been the January 6th committee hearing. And we're going to have another hearing, I understand, next week. But a key figure in that hearing has been Liz Cheney. And you heard her last night at American Enterprise Institute giving a talk. I want to play a little bit of sound kind of related to this whole thing and then talk about it on the other side.
Those who are protecting Donald Trump, elected leaders of my party, are now willing to condemn FBI agents, Department of Justice officials, and pretend that taking top secret SCI documents and keeping them in a desk drawer in an office in Mar-a-Lago or in an unsecured location anywhere was somehow not a problem.
All right, so she's saying, look, this has been the party of law and order, and now they're questioning the Justice Department. I'm curious what you thought of that statement and what else she said last night that could have been newsworthy.
Well, I wanted to go because I had covered Congresswoman Cheney out in Wyoming. Not the worst assignment, Jackson Hole. I'll take it any time.
Yeah.
CBS wants to send me back. But Cheney was defeated in her primary. Her primary opponent, who won, was actually in Washington as well yesterday. And so I wanted to monitor politically what's Cheney's message post-defeat coming back to Washington. And for her, this was a homecoming of sorts. It was at the American Enterprise Institute just over in DuPont Circle. And it's a homecoming because her father has a long-time relationship, so does her mother, with AEI, a conservative think tank. Her father was there, former Vice President Dick Cheney. So was Paul Wolfowitz, a former George W. Bush defense official. And she saw that conservative, hawkish wing of the Republican Party show up at AEI to show support for Congresswoman Cheney. She was tough on Trump, as ever, and calling him a direct and credible threat to democracy. She took him on in terms of how he's handling these legal challenges. She said when he said on a recent radio program with Hugh Hewitt that there's going to be big trouble if he's indicted, she said that's a threat to the entire American system. For Cheney, the question remains, where does she go from here? AEI is going to always welcome her into its Tony building over there in downtown. But politically, it would have a tough path in a Republican primary. I mean, just talking to Republican primary voters across the country, I was in Pennsylvania last week, I'm not sure the appetite's there for Cheney, but there is a lot of appetite in the donor community and the Republican establishment to have somebody challenge Trump to his face on the debate stage, should he choose to run in 2024. She got an interesting question. She was asked, what about a third party, someone who was an independent conservative who could maybe build a new coalition? She said, no thanks, in short.
That's interesting. So trying to challenge the party from within. I'm so curious now, as you bring up some of these old guard members, whether Democrats, in that situation would actually cross the aisle and support her. I think
she's
watching.
Still against abortion rights.
Exactly.
She still voted with Trump a significant, highly huge amount of the time. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I mean, it becomes harder for her to say she can really build a coalition. Though there is a coalition out there that's growing among some Democrats and some Republicans for democracy-focused candidacies. Mm-hmm. You see that in Pennsylvania. Doug Mastriano, Republican Trump ally running for governor, he's winning over a lot of moderate Republicans that I grew up with in the Philadelphia suburbs. They're going with the Democrat Josh Shapiro because they fear that Doug Mastriano is a threat to democracy.
That's interesting. Yeah, we'll kind of wait to see whether there is some kind of transformation. I mean, Scott, you cover Capitol Hill. When it comes to Cheney, she's got a couple of months left on her term. She's not going away yet. She's got this big bill out this week on reforming the electoral count process, which is pretty important given what we saw on January 6th. Does she carry much weight on Capitol Hill these days, or is she kind of just in lame duck mode? In other words, can she get any Republicans to her cause, or is she pretty much persona non grata?
That's a great question. She has this big bill, which I'm not understating it. It tinkers with democracy. It changes how January 6th in the future will count electoral votes. It changes the role, or makes clear the vice president doesn't have a role. It's just ministerial. Raises the threshold of the number of members of Congress who have to object to challenge the electoral count. But here's the thing, the bottom line. She has this bill on the floor tomorrow to change the electoral count. It's unclear how many Republicans will sign on because her name's on it. Does it put them in jeopardy at future primaries? It's a difficult prospect for this bill because Liz Cheney's name's on it. That should tell you something about her final 2-3 months.
Yeah, why take that political risk at this point? Well, Robert Costa and Scott MacFarlane, I know we'll be talking to you a lot over the next several months as we go into the midterms. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.